It's that time again. The Rebel Radio podcast in your listening ear holes right now. Your radio,
Yes.
your earpods, your telephone, your iHeartRadio app, Spotify, whatever it is you choose to listen to our show, which we do appreciate. And you're getting it now into your ears.
That's right.
You're getting the voices of Mark and Matt and the Rebel Radio podcast. And,
You're welcome.
And maybe that excites you. Maybe it turns you on a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, it could. It definitely could.
I've been told I have a sexy voice, or at least like a radio voice, even though I don't feel that way. I have been told that. True story. I'm not making that up, man. I know you're looking at me like, fuck, you're fucking lying.
Is it that one listener we have in Austria?
Yeah, it could be.
It could be.
But I don't know if I have a sultry voice or not. If it gets you hot and bothered, then so be it.
That's not what I meant to do, but hey, I'll take it.
Right. Yeah. Might have that one type of fan out there somewhere.
Yeah, I know, right?
But how have you been, man?
Oh man, it was good. We watched a lot of people blow stuff up this week. I didn't blow anything up, but had fun, drinking beer, eating burgers and hot dogs and watching everyone else do it.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I went to my brother's and so my brother bought quite a bit of fireworks and he has a buddy.
Oh, wow.
He's a cardiologist and he brought a lot of fireworks and we could have blown up a fucking house how many fireworks we had. I mean, we had mortars and cannons and bottle rockets, all sorts of shit. Then we did have one mortar go sideways and made everybody duck like crazy.
Oh, no.
That was frightening. Yeah, I just saw red coming right at my face. You never saw my big old fat ass duck so fast. Luckily, I was kind of near the car, so I just kind of ducked behind the car, and I was like, holy shit, that'll make your heart jump.
I'm going to start calling you Neo.
I'm telling you. And But we did have a good time, and good July 4th. And,
good, man.
Popping some fireworks and eating some food. And I didn't drink no beer. I don't really drink beer anymore, man. I'm getting too old, and it just doesn't make me feel good. I know I'm a wuss when it comes to that. But had a good time. And,
good, man.
Celebrating the birthday of America.
Of America, baby.
That's what we do. And, so it was cool. And now, and I worked throughout the week too, but that's okay.
Man, it happens, dude.
When you work in the retail business, there's no fucking holidays off. Maybe Christmas and New Year's.
It never sleeps, man. Christmas, New Year's, and Thanksgiving for sure. Definitely got to get the Turkey Day in there.
Yeah. That's all right around the corner, man.
Yeah, man. Before you know it, it's like
Labor Day, then Halloween, and we'll be doing our Halloween month, and then it'll be Turkey Day.
I guess people forget about Labor Day, man. We're part of Carrie's group on.
What is Labor Day? I don't even know what it is.
I think it's just a holiday for like the working class factory dudes back in the day, maybe, people in the textile factories.
When it gets closer to Labor Day, we'll have to look that up because I'm seriously not really sure why it's a holiday or what it is. Like most holidays, I understand what they are. But like, what is Labor Day?
Yeah,
because the old saying, "You're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day." Like, what does that mean, too?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely a fashion thing. Maybe they'll mention it in the Barbie movie that's coming up. Maybe Ken will be like, "Well, can't wear white. It's after Labor Day."
Oh, right.
But yeah, man.
I will report on Barbie as I'll be taking my little daughter to go see it. So.
There we go, man.
And I'm not embarrassed to say it. I'm going to be excited because she's going to be excited. So.
Yeah, man. There's nothing wrong with that. With anything your kids are watching.
I get to spend time with my baby sweet girl, and then I get to watch Margot Robbie for 2 hours. It's a win-win.
There you go, man. Yeah. Hey, Margot Robbie's there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a double date with my little boy with Margot Robbie.
You get something. You get something too.
That's right. But yeah, so it'll be fun. And next week's show we'll have a full report. We did Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol last week, and next week we will be seeing Dead Reckoning, and we will come back with a full report on that as we're going to see it together. And with our old co-host Frank, the three of us going to go see MI7 on Wednesday opening night. We're going to go check it out. So looking forward to that. So,
heck yeah, dude! It's going to be really fun.
Excited. And that kind of brings me to some things I watched this week because I last week we did Ghost Protocol and we had watched Rogue Nation. So this week I'm going to head and watch Fallout, so I can get all caught up and rewatch them before we see Dead Reckoning. And Fallout is still so amazing. I mean, it's easily my favorite in the series. Just the way the plot unfolds and the helicopter chase at the end is just spectacular. I mean, what a cool ass stunt to pull all that together, and the intensity of it. It's good stuff, man. The series just keeps getting better and better and better. And looking forward to Dead Reckoning next week for sure. And
yeah, man, they're entertaining always.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Other than that, I watched. I had never seen this series, and back when the Hunger Games came out, there was a lot of teenage books being turned into movies, and so I sat down and I watched Divergent because I heard it was one of the better ones of that era of films. And it's pretty good. I guess
the first film's good. Yeah,
I guess I'm going to have to finish the trilogy now, and I've heard that it gets a little not as good as it goes along. There's only 3 films in the series, so it shouldn't be too hard to finish. But a lot of times you get teenage actors, and they're kind of. But this is a pretty well acted movie, I thought, for a teenage film, and a cool story. The dystopian society that's walled off by a fence, and they put people in the factions and different ways of running the society, and she goes against the grain, of course. So she's a divergent. Can't think of the actress, Shanae Woodley, or however you say it.
Yeah, and, she was in The Secret Life of the American Teenager.
Yeah,
little drama.
So she goes against the grain and leads an. No, I wouldn't even say it's an uprising. Just fights back against the system once she finds out the system is corrupted, and which leaves it wide open for sequels, of course, to changing. But it was pretty solid, man. Good set designs. I thought it was a cool idea. Some good story, and. I was looking on HBO Max. I was like, do I want to watch this or The Maze Runner? Because that came out in that era too.
Yeah.
And I kind of went with Divergent simply because Zoe Kravitz is in it, and I'm really starting to enjoy her career as playing Catwoman and stuff. So I want to see more she's done. And she has a smaller part in it, but she's still good in it.
Still there, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the reason I watched it. And but I've heard good things about The Maze Runner too. I've heard those movies are pretty well done, also. So maybe I'm just reliving my youth by watching these teenager films.
Like, I want to feel like a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. And go back and be young again.
And listen to Pantera.
That's right. And tips and stuff. And, I watched that, and then I watched, I'm still trying to get through the Bad Batch season 2. I watched a couple more episodes of that, so I'm almost done. And I'm trying to think. I don't think I watched anything else really brand new or something I hadn't seen this week. I feel like I started something, but I didn't go back. I don't remember. I think I was too sleepy. So that tells you I don't remember what it was. I still need to go back and watch Extraction too. I watched like the first 20 minutes and just haven't gone back. I will eventually.
Yeah, man. I did. And speaking of Extraction, I watched both. I watched Extraction, and I watched the second one. Finished it. Maybe like an hour or so before we started recording today, and I like them. I think it's.
I got to watch it now. Did you finish it before me?
Yeah, man. I feel like the fight coordinations are good. You can tell what's going on, and Chris Hemsworth's character is good. He's got that soft spot. I think it's. Yeah, it's solid.
He's a bit despicable because he's a mercenary, but yet he has a soft spot.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a great action movie, but it's good and it's enjoyable.
But
yeah.
The bridge scene in part 1, that action sequence, the film isn't a great action movie, but that sequence could be up there with some great action sequences of all time.
Yeah, it's got some really good sequences in it. And there are just some scenes where whenever he's fighting people, that I'm just like, man, that's freaking brutal,
Yeah, they're
definitely and I like it. It's John Wick-esque, I feel like John Wick, obviously those fight scenes are, awesome, and I think Extraction is, kind of reminiscent of that. And very, very entertaining. Some sequences, like you said, way better than others. But yeah, like the second one a lot. I definitely feel like there is a third one that's going to come because why not? It's doing well. It's going to make money. Hemsworth is good in these action films. So, if it works, we're going to keep going to the well.
Well, isn't it funny how sometimes you get these movies and, I'm going to go a little random here. Like you get like, these sequences in the film that you could show that sequence, like the bridge sequence, to someone and think, wow, that's spectacular. Then you show them the rest of the film and maybe they're a little disappointed. Like I'll even as much as I dog the Fast and Furious movies. Okay, there's a sequence in, I think it's part 6 or something, where they're on the bridges and Vin jumps over the bridge and lands on the other car and all that.
Yeah.
It's an incredible sequence. It's one of the best sequences in all the Fast and Furious movies. But if you showed someone just that sequence, it's a great car chase, a great moment. Then you show them the rest of the movie, they might be like, okay, well, the rest of the movie's not that great because it's not that great.
Yeah.
But that sequence is incredible. It's one of the better sequences in all the Fast and Furious movies. And there's a lot of movies sometimes are like that. They have these amazing sequences in them, but then the rest of the movie around them is kind of like, that's okay. A perfect example is Ultraviolet by Kurt Wimmer, who directed.
Oh, yeah, dude.
The movie's terrible. But it has 2 absolutely incredible action sequences that if you showed someone with Mia Jovovich fighting, you would think, God, this is a badass film. No, it's not. Just the sequence is cool, Yeah,
man. The trailer got me on that one because, I thought, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be a great action film, and it's like you said, it's got a couple sequences in there that, make a really good trailer. And the rest is,
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you think of a sequence that you really like in a movie, but the rest of the movie you can admit it's kind of not, I won't say dog shit, but just not that good?
Yeah, maybe. Man, I'm trying to think. There's quite a few movies I can probably think of, and I would probably say like maybe Cobra. I think some people like Stallone's Cobra a lot. But I think the chase scene in Cobra, where he's I think he's got like a black Ford Maverick in there, and it's a pretty damn good chase scene. It could be up there in a top 20 maybe, and it's pretty good. But the rest of the film, I feel like it just doesn't move very well. Stallone is okay. It feels like he's just not doing the best that he could do. And so it's one of those where you've got this really strong chase scene, and then the rest of the film is like, maybe just not well executed exposition or something like that. Yeah.
We'll have to think about that, and maybe next week we'll text about it. Maybe come up with a couple of movies we can think of that have really great sequences, but the rest of the movies are kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm sure we can think of something. Anything else? Besides distraction.
Yeah. So, it was 4th of July this week, and I was like, man, I want to watch a military movie. And, I noticed that The Covenant was available to rent. I didn't have to buy it. And so I paid the $5 and did the 48-hour rental, and I watched it. I actually thought it was based off of a true story. It's not. It's just, it's fiction. But it's a good story. And it's, if you haven't seen the trailer, Jake Gyllenhaal, he is part of a unit that goes in and tries to locate IED manufacturing facilities in Afghanistan post 9/11, so that they can help, defeat the Taliban and win the war on terror. And he enlists a interpreter to help them on their quest to do this after their first interpreter dies during a like a traffic stop that they have going on in part of that country. But they get into a bad firefight, and he helps him survive. He gets out of the fight, but this guy protects him against his own people and carries him back to his military allies, and they get him back home. He spends like 4 weeks in bed, and then finds out that they did not take care of the person that saved his life. And he's like, you know what, if you're not going to help him, I'm going to go in and I'm going to get him out, because he finds out he's being hunted by the Taliban, and he's got a family. His wife's pregnant. He's got a kid and one on the way. and he goes out there and does it himself with a little bit of military sanction, but not much. They help him out some, but not as much as they probably should. And he goes out there and he, of course, he makes it happen. But it's a good story. And it's a
Guy Ritchie movie, isn't it?
Yeah. But it doesn't look like Snatch. It doesn't look like Guy from U.N.C.L.E. It doesn't look like your typical Guy Ritchie film. It's different. It kind of threw me off a little bit. And I'm like, I'm not saying he's a bad director. There's just, a certain style that I see with his films that I didn't see here. Yeah.
Well, and even the Sherlock Holmes films, you still see some of his style. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that maybe with the combat, with some of the combat, but just overall how the film flows. There's not like that fast zoom in camera real quick. And, and then it stops and goes, this guy is that guy,
Right.
So it's like, you don't have that. This one's more of a, military drama, military action drama. And so he takes a different approach. So it might throw you off at first, but it's a good film. He did a good job. Definitely worth a rental.
I still haven't watched his Man from U.N.C.L.E. I've wanted to, but I normally can put aside when a guy's a creep in a movie. Bryan Singer, I can still watch his films.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey, older films, I can still kind of watch him. If I see him in newer stuff, like Armie Hammer, man, it's hard for me to watch The Man from U.N.C.L.E. knowing now that he was a creep,
Yeah.
And it's and I want to watch it just because of Henry Cavill. Because I heard it's pretty good,
Cavill's good in it, yeah. And I didn't know, I guess I didn't realize the stuff about Armie Hammer. That's probably why I, didn't, think about that whenever I watched it. But, Cavill's good in it. He's smooth, man. I watched that movie and I'm like, Cavill could be James Bond if he wanted to. So The Witcher season 3 came out, and of course, Cavill's in it, and immediately the first episode's got two big battles in it, and some small ones, and he's out there, man, swinging his sword again, cutting people's heads off, slaying beasts. The woman who plays crap, I can't think of her name.
Did you say the first two episodes have Cavill in it?
Oh, the first the first 2 seasons have Cavill in it, and Cavill's back, of course, for this 3rd season. I don't know what they're going to do without him, because they're going to go with Liam.
So he did film a 3rd season.
Yeah, he filmed the 3rd season, and I think he's out after the season because of disagreements with the writing. So I guess they're not he's been. What I heard, I haven't heard him say this or seen his interviews, but apparently he just doesn't like the direction the writers are going. It's not following the lore of The Witcher. According to the video games and stories, and he's I guess not a fan of it, so he's wants to out, supposedly. I thought maybe it was because he'd be working on something bigger, but who knows? It could be a variety of reasons, but I'm definitely gonna keep watching this season, and hopefully hopefully they he says never mind and he comes back, but I don't think that's going to happen. The actress that plays Yennefer is smoking, and definitely a big fan of her, and always a pleasure looking.
I've heard she shows the boobies a lot.
She does. In the first 2 seasons, she does. She is like the what is it, the Olay lady, or what's that? Man, there's some makeup brand that they always used to give out samples, and so they used to say, "Oh, don't be like that lady," and it's so she's always giving out samples throughout that whole season. So she gets she's kind of misshapen at first, and she uses she makes this deal so that she can be beautiful and still have her magic intact. and she changes her looks and stuff. It's a creepy sequence whenever it happens. Her bones like shift and stuff, and she becomes how she actually looks in real life. But it's she after that, whenever she gets her looks and stuff, she's definitely flaunting things. Even before, I think there's one scene where she's kind of like, she got that hunchback thing still going on. And there's a guy that, definitely engages with her. So there's definitely that. And then Geralt is shirtless a lot, and there's definitely a few women that he encounters. And it's funny whenever he's he's with some of these women and they're like flirting with him, he just goes, just like this grunt.
So like Conan or something?
I guess so. But like Cavill-esque, if Cavill was Conan, it's
back and try
toned down.
I had a hard time getting into it, but maybe I'll try to go back.
Dude, the sword fighting, the demons, I thought that stuff was cool. I still think the first season is the best. But I'm liking what I've seen so far. Other than that, I did watch some Babylon 5, and I am up to episode 14. It's 14 or 15.
Yeah, he's slacking, man. He should be done the first season by now.
Dude, yeah, I took like a couple weeks off watching it, and I definitely got myself behind. So I'm going to have to do some catch up. Maybe tomorrow. I've got some time tomorrow. I'm going to have to definitely gonna have to get on that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, once you get to the second season, it'll start flowing fast.
Yeah, no, it's good, man. Definitely for the technology at the time, the space fights are nice.
Yeah, they do hold up well for even 30 years later. I think that considering they use CGI, one of the first TV shows that ever used CGI, and really well done because they did that on purpose because they didn't want to look like Star Trek. So they wanted to do something different, and they were one of the first TV shows that used CGI. And,
okay.
Still really good, I think, even for that time. And consider 1995, 96. I mean, the show looks really good.
No, man. And I think the acting for what they're going for is pretty good. One of the episodes, and I'm guessing we're going to get answers that come back. The commander, he finds out that he was selected by the Centauri to lead Babylon 5. I guess he was like number 20 down on the list, but they said that they wouldn't participate until he joined. So I guess that the reason for that's probably going to come up later on in one of the other seasons.
Yeah, and that's what the story makes up for. Lack of special effects, it makes up for the story, good acting. You just wait till Sheridan is introduced into the show and his character, and it just gets better and better. It's just the way it is, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, man. I've enjoyed it so far.
You watched a lot more than I did this week. You did good, sir. You did good.
I tried, man. I stacked the deck.
I did a lot of TV scrolling, though. I'm like, I'm not going to watch this. I'm not going to watch this. I try to watch stuff. A little bit of news before we get into today's featured film. Robert Downey Jr. apparently was seen on the set of Captain America: Brave New World or New World Order, whatever the fuck they're calling the movie now. Has people wondering how's he in it. I have a feeling it's. There's two reasons here. It's either a flashback sequence or it's could be. My fear of them doing multiverse in Captain America: New World Order is like too much of it. It just doesn't feel like there's a place for it in Captain America: New World Order.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's more of a flashback sequence. If that's true.
I agree with you.
That would make a little more sense.
Too much multiverse, man.
And then you skip over to Deadpool 3, and there's all kinds of rumors who is in this.
Oh, dude. Well, they've confirmed one.
From Ben Affleck to Jennifer Garner.
They confirmed Jennifer Garner. IGN did. That is confirmed.
Was it on IGN? It's like
yes,
that's crazy. It's like
Channing Tatum's rumored. There's a lot of buzz that he is a cameo as Gambit, not like he's gonna.
He never played Gambit, and he never should have played Gambit. I'm glad that movie never happened.
But we saw with Nick Cage, it's like you never played it, and it's like just a concept art, and here we go,
Yeah. There's rumors of Hugh Jackman being seen in the classic yellow costume, which, okay, I'd rather have the brown costume, but the classic yellow.
I saw that leak.
Like I said, I'd rather have the brown costume that they teased. Did they tease the brown costume at the end of Logan? Yeah. Or not Logan, at the end of the Wolverine.
Yeah.
But we never got it on the big screen. So yeah, is too much multiverse a good thing or a bad thing? That's the only thing. I mean, and I think it's because it extends not just from MCU, but also into the Flash, into Spider-Verse, into movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it's just like it's asking the audiences a lot to keep up with all these universes, these multi-universes, and even me as a viewer, and I love the stuff just like you do. I love all the Marvel stuff. Even I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed by all the multiverse stuff.
Yeah, man. Is it too much?
I mean, what happened to just telling a good movie with a good villain? Fantastic Four versus Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Ant-Man versus Kang without it being multiverse type stuff. Just like that's my thing. And I think that's kind of why Guardians 3 was good. What I saw of it from a certain view, because it wasn't all over the place. It just told a story about them fighting a bad guy.
Yeah.
And so and I think that's part of the reason why the MCU current phase has been a little bit of a mess. It's asking audiences to keep up with a lot. Where phase 1, the Thanos phase, you could have skipped the movie and still kept up with what was going on.
Yeah.
It feels like MCU is taking their audiences for granted a little bit with the new phase and really ask you to watch everything, especially with all the TV shows. And I think maybe they're overdoing a little bit. I haven't even watched the episode of Secret Invasion yet. Not just because I wanted to. I'm just a little jaded and overwhelmed by it all right now.
Yeah. Like, I watched the first 2 episodes, and it's not my favorite MCU series, but I want to see what kind of information I can get from it and how it leads into the new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, and so we'll see. The only bit of news I have was we finally got a trailer for the long-awaited Martin Scorsese film that brings him back with Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. And that's Killers of the Flower Moon, based on the book about the murders on the Osage Ranch Indian Reserve.
Okay.
Wrong. And I watched the trailer, and because it's Scorsese, it's DiCaprio. I'm interested. But man, the trailer when you watch, you'll see it really feels like a Tarantino film. Like the trailer is cut like a Tarantino movie. I couldn't help but think that, which I thought was a little bizarre for Scorsese because he's such a classic filmmaker. But I mean, if you're a lover of film, you got to kind of be excited for that movie. I mean, DiCaprio's been great, always works great with Scorsese. De Niro's in it. I mean, and it's one of the greatest directors of all time directing another film. So I mean,
yeah, man.
I don't think has he and DiCaprio worked together since The Departed?
Ooh,
I'm trying to think.
No, because he wasn't in The Irishman.
Wasn't The Irishman? He wasn't in Silence.
So
I think this might be the last time they worked together. Might have been The Departed.
Yeah.
Which feels 15 years. It feels off that they haven't worked together since. But I'm going to look that up because I don't want to tell our audiences wrong, because that's what we do in the Rebel Radio podcast. We're
try and be accurate.
Proper accuracy with our film, even if we fuck up sometimes.
Yeah, man. Try and be as, give you give you the facts, baby. Just the facts.
Yeah, it wasn't The Irishman. It wasn't in Silence. The Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, 2013.
Wolf of Wall Street.
That's the last time him and Scorsese worked together. Okay, so 10 years. So yeah, that's why there's a lot of excitement behind this, because those two guys get together and they make good stuff, just like Scorsese and De Niro did in the 80s and 90s. They get together and they make good stuff. So now you have his two guys he worked with a lot, De Niro and DiCaprio, coming together in one film. So if you can't appreciate that as a film fan, well, then I'm sorry.
Yeah, man, you're going to have some classic Scorsese players in there, man.
That's right.
Just like the movie we're going to talk about today. I saw some James Mangold favorites in there.
Oh, did you? Well, let's get to that then, man, because we are doing our feature film today, which is a current movie. It's currently in theaters, which we've done that twice in a month now, which is pretty rare for us. But
it is.
Felt like there were a couple of movies that we wanted to talk about, and that is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The final adventure for Indiana Jones is that Harrison Ford and the character are being retired. And I will say for now, because I truly do think that if there's money to be made and Disney can find a way to do it, that he'll be back in some form.
Yeah.
Whether it's comic books, an animated series, a prequel series like a Teenage Indiana Jones, which has been a lot of rumor going around about that. Almost like a follow-up to Young Indiana Jones, where he's just a little bit older. I think he'll be back in some form. But for now, this is our final Indiana Jones adventure. And, we're going to go full spoiler on this. It's in theaters, as we do. So just be prepared now if you want to come back later and listen after you see the film. But first off, I'll say that I like the movie a lot. It's a pretty simple plot where Indy is looking for the other half of Archimedes' dial, which is believed to have, where a German scientist played by Mads Mikkelsen believes it has time travel abilities, which in history that was not so much the case, but they did it for the movie. And so Indy has to stop the bad guy from getting this dial and going through time and changing the course of World War II, making the Germans win, basically. I'm going to simplify the plot because I don't want to ruin everything for people.
Basically it, yeah.
I'm going to go into spoilers. So first off, my first thoughts on this movie is immediately as I got into the film, especially the opening sequence, I felt like it was in any film. I felt James Mangold immediately put us into that era and that territory. The de-aging CGI was incredible.
Was very good, yeah.
And, Spielberg, of course, directed the first four. So Mangold puts us into an indie film, and it feels like an indie film. And then once we got past the little prequel, there were parts of it that didn't feel as much as an indie film. And the reason I'm saying this is because I went back this week, and I didn't want to mention this and download this because I wanted to wait till we're talking about indie. I rewatched most of Crystal Skull, the one that people really hate on, which I don't understand. And Crystal Skull, whether you liked it or not, it feels like an indie film from beginning to end. Where Dial of Destiny, there are parts of it that didn't quite feel as much as like an indie film. And I don't think it's a fault on Mangold. It's just a different style.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to accept that. It's still an indie film. It's just a different style indie film than Spielberg. So I have to look past that it's not a Spielberg film and realize that James put his own stamp on this. And that being said, I think it's a wonderful stamp. So I don't want to be too harsh on it. I just want to, I guess my expectations were going in, it's going to look like a Steven Spielberg indie film. And I had to accept that it doesn't. But it's still an Indiana Jones film. It has all the elements. It has adventure. It has humor. It has a MacGuffin. It has all the wonderful characters that Indy meets throughout his adventure, including Antonio Banderas, and unfortunately a small role, but it was great to see him in it.
Yeah.
So on that being said, I do think Mangold did what is hard footsteps to follow the great Steven Spielberg. But he did a good job with it overall. And I think it's a good, fun film that he puts his own stamp on, if that makes sense. And those are my initial thoughts before we get too hardcore into the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, I'll say my first thoughts whenever I saw the Disney logo come up, and then I saw the Paramount logo come up, and I was expecting the Paramount logo to fade into some mountains like we normally get it.
Fanboys of the internet, it's just a logo. Who cares?
Yeah, I know. It's not a knock. It's like it fades into the Lucasfilm.
I didn't even think about it. So I read something, they said something on the internet. I'm like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
And then we get clocks, and then it starts panning around Indy's apartment, and you start seeing stuff like and I'll throw kind of a nod to this. We'll talk about it. But you see Mutt's picture, and then you see a flag, folding in a triangle in a frame. Which what happens when you get one of those. And then you see a picture of his dad, and you see some of the artwork that his dad had on his wall of the crucifixion of Christ. So you see some relics, throwing some Easter eggs back at some of the previous films and his previous adventures. And then you see some separation picture photos, and I'm like, like, man, another failed relationship. He failed the relationship with Leia, and he failed the relationship with Marion. But we'll get to that because there is some redemption that we didn't get with, I feel like as much with Han and Leia. But yeah, I feel like he's a little grumpier. Which is Harrison does that really really good. I think grumpy-ish Harrison is comical, and has some comedy in that own right. But it threw me off seeing the de-aging process and hearing old Harrison's voice come out of young Harrison. Because like you, I watched Raiders, and I'm like, man, there's a difference in the voice, of course, obviously. But it threw me off just a little bit.
It didn't take me out of the movie though, or anything.
It didn't take me out, yeah. And then we meet a friend of his, a new character, and we get into him, and meet his goddaughter. But I do like how there's some nods to the other films. Like in the whether you agree with it or not, the last like 20-25 minutes of this film, he's like kind of taken out of the picture. He's indisposed, and kind of like Raiders. Raiders, he's the arc is being taken, it's being opened, it's people's faces are melting off, and through all of this, he's tied up. So we do have a film where he's kind of taken out of that last act for a chunk of time, and it works. It's worked before, but this seemingly last bout, I feel like I wanted to see more of him. But we've got this more realistic take of Indy. What's he going to do? He's already shown through the film where he kind of struggles and is fighting a little bit. So they do give you a realistic take on Indy, and they don't overdo it to where you're like, man, Indy wouldn't be able to knock this big German guy out, because he struggled with some big German shoulders before. And in Raiders, but yeah, I like the film. I liked Mangold's directing. There's some things that I would probably, I could go either way with, but I understood him. And we'll get into that. But overall, I feel like I enjoyed the film. I think it's it can be a top 4 film for me this year. And it's maybe it could be a top 1 or 2 for you. I think we'll get into that. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's worth seeing in theaters. I think I saw something to where it's not doing as well as they'd hoped, which I don't understand why.
The box office in general this year has been down.
Yeah. I thought we'd see a little bit more spunk out of the indie film. But it's hopefully it picks up after some more buzz and some more reviews come through, because it is good and it is worth seeing.
Yeah, audiences are liking it despite what some of the critics said about it, and I think that's important.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. I thought the indie voice didn't throw me off. I thought they handled the older indie very well, because this version of indie is not going to be jumping over things and running as much as the other indie. To me, it was very much too. It's also, people said there wasn't a lot of action, but I thought there was plenty of action. I thought it had a lot of action. But I also thought it's also it's a character study where Indy's place in history is. He's been on all these grand adventures. He even says it in the movie himself. I've seen things that I can't explain. Mm-hmm. So it's all about his place in history, especially the ending of the film. I think when and here we'll get into spoilers where the German man, I can't think of Mads Mikkelsen's character, the doctor.
Oh yeah,
he does get the time. He does get the time Fisher to work, and he thinks he's going to World War II, but instead it sends him back to the time of Archimedes before the guy was even finished, and they see the great surge of what's it called?
Syracuse.
Syracuse, that's it.
Yeah.
And for Indy, it was an incredible moment because he's getting to witness history, something he appreciated so much throughout his life as a professor and as an archaeologist. And at first, you think he's going to stay there, which I was really not liking that direction as I'm watching the film. I was like, oh, come on, no, don't do that, because it's almost like killing him off, and he was shot at that point in the film, and you weren't sure if he was going to survive. And then we haven't even talked about his goddaughter, Helena Shaw, played by Phoebe Walker-Bridges, who's really great in the movie. She's charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
She's a lot of fun. And she keeps Indy from staying in the past by punching him and taking him back, which I thought that was great because, she realized that his place in history is where he needs to be. And to me, that's what a lot of the movie was about Indy. It was his adventures throughout his life and what they meant to him and they meant to other people. And especially the ending of the film, which we haven't even got to yet, which we're going to save the ending of the film because it's a huge, like you say, huge redemption moment for him.
Yeah.
And not necessarily there's a redemption arc throughout the film, but just a important redemption for his character at the end of the film. And so I thought that's what this movie was about, was a study of Indy and his adventures and how important he was to his own history and to his own life and to the people around him, whether it be his son, Mutt, who he lost in the Vietnam War, or to his friend, Sala, who makes a wonderful appearance in this movie.
Yeah.
And to his goddaughter and to the memories of those that he's lost, including Basil and his father and Marcus and other people, And I thought that was a beautiful way to bring Indy's end, to show how important his history of the things he's done were to the people in the world and the people around him. And that's kind of what I got out of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I do think the middle part of the film was a little clunky at times, where they were trying to jump from here to there from the bad guys and keep the dial in their hands. Like the bad guys conveniently show up at their boat. The bad guys conveniently show up at the little town they're in. So that might be a minor beef for the film, is, the middle part of it's a little clunky. But I also read people complain that John Williams' score wasn't given enough sound time. I thought the score was fantastic. I didn't have a problem with it.
Wanting more of it's one thing, but it's like it sounded great.
People said, they used a lot of practical effects of the original Indy films. They used CGI in this one. That didn't really bother me. I mean, how else are you going to make New York look like it was in the 1960s?
Exactly.
CGI?
You're going to have some of that.
Yeah. That was fine with me. I thought Mads Mikkelsen played a great villain. So did Holbrook, who was in James Mangold's Logan.
Mads is also good. Is always good.
Yeah, Mads is a great actor. I thought Harrison brought his A game, was great as Indy. Overall, just a truly enjoyable. I just really enjoyed the film a lot, from the opening sequence with the de-aging. And at first, I'm not going to lie, it took me a bit to get into it. But then, I just relaxed and I sat back and I enjoyed it. And I really had fun with the movie overall once I realized the story they were trying to tell. And, I didn't even think about this, but Lucasfilm has been telling stories about our heroes aging for a couple years now, from whether it's Luke to Boba Fett to Obi-Wan to now Indiana Jones.
Daddy.
Yeah. I would say that, I kind of agree with your convenience thing. There's some convenience aspects in this film. And one of the ones I'll point to is his goddaughter, Elena. All of a sudden her boyfriend or, fake fiance just shows up and there's a chase scene. He was not talked about at all throughout the whole film. And then they just,
I thought that was supposed to be played for laughs, but yet members of his crew are getting killed. So was it supposed to be funny?
Yeah.
Or not? But I did. That was a bit convenient.
And then,
but it's no different than in Raiders, where Marion is conveniently captured by the Nazis. And how do they know that? You go back to Raiders. How did they know they were in that town? And all of a sudden they capture her. I think that's kind of a throwback to adventure serials, which is what Indiana Jones is supposed to be.
Maybe so.
I can forgive it, but I saw your point too. I was like, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they use it to enhance the chase scene and make it more interesting, which is fine. But I was like, oh, this is convenient, but it didn't, like you said, didn't take me out of the film,
right?
Or anything. What did take me out a little bit, at first I'm like wondering what to think of Helena, because I'm like, is she an antagonist or a protagonist?
Right?
Because she's like kind of double crossing Indy,
intentionally.
Yeah,
she's just thinking she's doing what she does, and it took her a bit to come around and realize, like, oh wait a minute, I got to be on his side.
Yeah, she needed some guidance. I also think whenever she had to punch Indy, I was like, I didn't like that because like in Last Crusade, he makes the decision to take his father's hand. The temptation is there. to grab the Grail. But, his dad says, let it go, son.
Right.
And he has that moment there where he has to make the decision for himself to do the right thing. This time you took his decision making completely out of it. He has to get knocked out, or else he was going to stay and screw up time. I don't think Indy would have done that.
But ultimately it was the right thing to do because he needed to be back in his time.
He did.
For what we saw with the ending, obviously, as we'll just say he's reunited with Marion at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And reignite his relationship with her.
I just feel like it would have been better had he made that decision for himself and, instead of him having to be knocked out. But there's the argument to be made there that his goddaughter was guiding him. And that, you could say that's the whole thing there, which is fine. But I was like, I kind of like it whenever Indy just does the right thing.
Right. But yeah, I can see that. But it still worked the way it was handled too, I think.
Yeah, it does.
And then we, what else did we not talk? And then they had this interesting kid, Teddy, which is kind of thrown in there almost for the children to have someone to pay attention to in the film.
A short round-esque.
Yeah, he's a convenience too because he gets captured by the huge guy that dude was humongous.
Dude, massive, man.
I mean, that was a massive bad guy they found. And of course,
Indy hits him and nothing happens.
He goes out and he gets killed by chasing the kid through the water and gets himself caught underwater. I kept waiting thinking he was going to pop back up somewhere, but nope. I guess he drowned down there.
Hey, he went out.
Huge.
Yeah, man. They needed to take him out somehow.
And did he even have a speaking line in the movie? He was just a tough guy, huh?
He was just like, grunts and stuff, I think,
That was one massive dude. I was like, holy shit, that guy's humongous.
I think the time travel aspect is worth talking about. So whenever they, look at the tomb of Archimedes, he's got a watch on that wasn't invented. And they, see dragons with propellers. Yeah. And so you get this time loop of, what happened has always happened was always going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's just how it was going to happen. You can't change time because it's a loop. It's a closed loop. So that's the timeline thing.
I thought the time travel MacGuffin was a cool element. I mean, people complain about the aliens in part 4. I thought that was cool too. I mean, not everything. I think that Indy did a good job of covering all these different supernatural things, from the occult to the Ark of the Covenant and the beginnings of Christ and to the aliens and to time travel. I think they were all good MacGuffins, good things to cover in this character. And I didn't really have a problem with any of them. And I thought the time travel thing was a really cool idea. I was a little surprised that they went through time a little bit because I think it was unexpected. I would almost think that they would try to use the dial and it didn't work or something bad happened, instead of them going through time, because you kind of expect that from the indie films to something goes wrong, but this time the time device actually did work. So I thought that was interesting. But I was fine with it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. And I like that, I like that you've got the old tech fighting against the new tech, and they're like friggin' shooting spears at the damn planes. I guess it's Romans or Spartans or
Romans or Greeks or something.
Yeah, definitely some type of Greek.
Yeah.
I thought that part was cool, and Mads, he goes out like a good villain. I felt like he probably should have been taken out earlier, because he gets a head injury that is reminiscent of Speed and Dennis Hopper. He gets hit in the friggin' head, going on a train.
Yeah,
and I'm like, this guy's dead.
Yeah, I agree. As in any film, I don't think anything's ever going to top the original 3. Those are just a special time, and we get these legacy sequels, and it's always hard to compare them to the originals. But I don't think I like 5 any more than I like 4. I kind of look like at 4 and 5 is just a couple of new indie adventures, but they're not going to top. They're not ever going to top Raiders, Temple, or Last Crusade. But I can still enjoy 4 and 5 for what they are. There's a lot of things I enjoy about Crystal Skull, and there were a lot of things I enjoyed about Dial of Destiny, and I'm looking forward to watching it again, because I do think James Mangold did a good job of bringing Indy's story to a close. And I think he, for the most part, told a good Indy story. And I think that he did. I think Spielberg should be proud of the job James Mangold did, and George Lucas should be proud of the job he did bringing Indiana Jones back to the screen for a final adventure. And I think it was a proper ending at the end. I can see your point on why he should have made his own decision to stay, but I didn't have a problem with the humorous aspect of it either. And Helena punching him and saying, "No, you're not going to do that."
Yeah.
Because once we saw him in the apartment with Sala and Sala's grandchildren, and they're all happy to see Indy, and then we see him reunited with Marion, and they get to replay that moment from Raiders of the Lost Ark where she kisses him where it hurts and stuff. I thought it was a wonderful callback to complete their story. And now you can kind of sit back and pretend that Indy and Marion are going to have a nice life together as they grow older. And that's that, you know.
One thing that I thought was funny is I guess it's implied that they're like, you know, going to have some alone time at the end. And he reaches out the window and he grabs his hat. Like, did she tell him, put on the hat? You know, I want you to wear the hat whenever you.
Mangold addressed that already. He said it was just kind of a funny callback to how Indy would always lose the hat but still find it. Whether it was reaching underneath the dungeon in Temple of Doom or reaching over the cliff in Last Crusade, he said it was just kind of a callback to how Indy was always made sure he grabbed that hat one last time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think there's any implied old people boom boom, Matt.
Yeah, okay. I thought maybe she was like, I want you to wear the hat this time. Oh, man. Yeah.
And I guess, you know, I think Marion would have been cool to have a little more screen time, but at the same time, I think that it was perfect too when she appeared, you know.
Yeah, because you can't, you know, we already had Marion in the last film, and
she got she got her story in part 4 to tell, and her and Indy got married, and we get the rest of their story through Indy's dialogue. You know, that relationship wasn't working out; they couldn't handle the death of their son, and you know, so her story was told. It was just told from Indy's perspective. You know?
Yeah, man.
I think it was well handled.
I think it worked the way it, you know, as well as it could have been, and it's a good addition to the. To another sequel. Yeah.
And overall, man, Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny, very worth seeing. A lot of fun. We've now covered 4 of the 5, and eventually we'll probably get around to Crystal Skull. I think we can't just leave it out there. We'll have to do it. But we've talked a lot of Indy this month with Last Crusade, then our Indiana Jones panel at Compalooza, and now ending the month of June, early July with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And but well worth talking about. Good, fun movie.
Definitely, man. We'll definitely have to get into Crystal Skull. One of these days, complete it.
And we kind of did this on purpose because, you know, we were talking about Spielberg created the legacy of Indiana Jones along with George Lucas. And so next week we are going to do a Steven Spielberg film. I think if I counted right, this is our 12th Steven Spielberg film we've covered. Definitely the most of any director.
Wow.
And this is a movie that's about 5 years old now, and it came out, and I really, really like this movie a lot. It's one of my favorites of the last few years. I read the book. It's just a fun movie. And that is Ready Player One.
My name's Wade Watts. My dad picked that name because it sounded like a superhero's alter ego, like Peter Parker or Bruce Banner. But he died when I was a kid, my mom too. And I ended up here, sitting here in my tiny corner of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the Oasis. A whole virtual universe. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do. But they stay because of all the things they can be.
Can you feel this?
Yeah. The only place that feels like I mean anything. The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. I created a hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Who is this Parzival, and how the hell is he winning?
Find him. This isn't just a game. I'm talking about actual life and death stuff.
The Oasis, the world's most important economic resource. And it's nothing less than a war for control of the future.
Welcome to the rebellion, Wade.
Like many of you, I only came here to escape. But I found something much bigger than just myself. Are you willing to fight?
Help us save the Oasis.
And, we're going to talk about it next week. It's streaming on HBO Max if you want to watch along with us. Just a fun movie about video games and science fiction, and just it's a blast of a film to watch. It really is. And so we're going to discuss Ready Player One next week and talk about it and some comparison it to the book and things like that. And looking forward to it,
Yeah, man, just a love letter to pop culture and our childhood and things that we all love as nerds, baby.
That's right. So next week we'll have Ready Player One. We'll have our full review of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning and pop culture this month of pop culture history, all next week on the show for you people. So it'll be a fun one. But until then, the rebelradiopodcast.com for all your Rebel Radio needs. And we thank you as always for listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, continue to be safe. This is Mark.
This has been Matt.
And then remember, as always, just go there.
Just go there and do it.